Now, how about them damn Celtics?
All right, we are back with another Boston Celtics video. Today, Sam and I are talking about Derrick White, Chris Forsberg, and the NBC Sports Boston crew had out another edition of Ramped Camp, where they look at different things ahead of training camp, which is in 10 days now. And in this one, they looked at what is the one thing they want to see from Derrick White this season. We'll take a look.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be significantly more responsibility on Derrick White's shoulders this year. He's going to have to be the secondary scoring option, as the subheading of the article says. For really the first time in his career, at least in terms, like, he's going to have lineups where it's him and the boys. Or maybe not him and the boys, but he's going to be the top guy at times for the Celtics this year, which he's never really had to do. When he's had his big scoring outbursts in the playoffs, like he had a 38-point game against Miami in 2024, I believe, like, he created a lot of those shots, but it was also like he got hot catching and shooting from three. Like, the way he was scoring oodles of points is going to be different than the way he's going to have to do it this year. So, for him, it's going to be a lot of being comfortable putting the ball on the floor, not just in the make a quick move, drive to the basket, do a floater kind of way. Like, there's going to have to be like setting up of your teammates. There's going to have to be handling the extra pressure that comes along with being one of the focal points of the defense now. And the growing pains or the lack thereof is really going to determine how well he plays and how well the Celtics play to start the season, I think.
Yeah, Derrick White's going to have to do a lot more, all while maintaining the defensive pressure that he's kept up since he joined Boston. So we can take a look first at seeing what Chris Forsberg had to say, then what all the people at NBC had to say. Oh, wow. Okay, so these are Derrick's stats without Tatum and without Brown. Without Tatum, 21 points, 3.5 rebounds, almost 6 assists. Without Brown, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, you can very clearly see the difference of without Brown, Tatum is still going to be that number one scorer. Without Tatum, maybe needed someone to step up a little bit in that role. And I mean, Derrick was just really good in whatever role he had to play. And I'll start out would be a reflection of White's ability to help keep this team afloat while navigating Tatum's absence. Much like with Brown's elevating to the 1A role, we're intrigued to see how White fares in a brighter spotlight. The defense is going to be there. We're also interested in how White's leadership grows. Let's check in with our panel. Okay, Darren Hartwell says aggressiveness. It took us almost 2 seasons for the Celtics to convince White to shoot whenever he had an open look. He blossomed into Boston's third best scorer as a result. With Tatum out, he's now the second best scorer and will be asked to shoulder an even greater offensive load beyond taking open shots. It'd be great to see White create his own offense more frequently. Do you think he's their second best scorer?
Right now?
Yeah.
I think it's a good question because, like, Anthony Simons, Peyton Pritchard there, and, like, you could be like, man, those guys are straight up buckets, especially Pritchard, who, like, will go to the Pro-Am and score 90 points. I think it really doesn't matter if he's their second best scorer. He's going to have to be. Like, I think they're going to trust him to score more than the other two, or at least more than Pritchard. We haven't seen Simons yet. We haven't seen how Joe Mazzulla will use him. But I find it hard to believe that Pritchard's going to come in and be the secondary scorer after being the sixth man last year, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think that they're going to have him doing a lot of run the offense. You're going to be out there basically by yourself. There's probably going to be a lot of Peyton Derrick lineups or Peyton Anthony lineups at times, like where they have the opportunity to complement each other. But I don't really know if it's going to be like Peyton Pritchard and then Hauser and then whoever else. Like, I think those will be like more Jalen lineups, which will be an interesting thing to see. But to answer your actual question, I think he's probably the second. I don't know. I
don't think he is. I think he can be, and I think he could average the second most points. But I think a lot of Derrick White's buckets come from playing off the ball and benefiting from other people's creation. And I don't think he's incapable of being a great creator, and I think he's going to have to be this year. And I think that creation, as Darren is outlining here, is going to be important. But I think natural scorers, Pritchard and Simons, are probably better natural individual shot creators and scorers than Derrick White is. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's why it could be a good thing to have Anthony Simons on board this year, because that gives you 3 guys who are comfortable, creating for themselves rather than just 2. I think Derrick White's great at creating for others too, and I think we're going to get a very big look at what he can be as an individual creator this year. But I think Pritchard is a lot more comfortable with the ball in his hands or at least it looks it at times, than Derrick White is. And again, that's not a bad thing. That's not a knock on Derrick White. That's just I think he's just more comfortable in those spots. So we'll see this year. Michael Hurley says, keep being Derrick White. Maybe that sounds like an unserious response, but if I'm looking at Derrick White, I don't want to change a thing about his game. Good player, stay that way. Also valid. You kind of have the best role player in the NBA, so why would you ask him to, change the way he plays? And I think if Pritchard and Simons can pick up the slack in the shot creation, then maybe you don't really have to.
I guess I think there is going to have to be some sort of, whether it is like a forced thing or not, more emphasis on him trying to create shots for himself, where it's not just making a move and going. Like, it's going to have to be like running pick and roll. Not to say he never does that, but like really being the primary ball handler, having to play make, having to set up other guys. It's just not the kind of thing that it's going to be different from what we've seen the last year. And I think that's going to require growth if it's going to work. Like, I just don't know if they have the flexibility to or the depth to just have him do his thing like he's been doing. Like, yes, Pritchard and Simons can score. We already talked about that. And they may be like individually better scorers or as good as Derrick. But I just feel like, I don't know, the consistency is more there from Derrick White, if that makes sense. It's weird to say that with Pritchard because he shot like 40% from three every year except for one. So that's unfair. Maybe it's the size. There's something here that's making me feel this way, and I can't really pinpoint what it is.
I mean, he's just done it more. Like, he's just had the opportunity to do it more. That's probably why you've seen him in those spots more often than you've seen Peyton Pritchard play those roles. I mean, you look at pick and roll ball handlers in Boston last year. I want to see how many total possessions Derrick White ran, and I would hazard a guess that he ran a lot more than a lot of other guys. Like, Derrick White ran the second most pick and rolls in Boston last year. It was a wide margin. Jason Tatum at 530, but then Derrick White was at 266. Pritchard was down at 170. And I mean, Derrick White was pretty efficient. He had 0.98 points per possession, but Peyton Pritchard was 1.11 points per possession in the pick and roll. Derrick White shot 41.1% out of the pick and roll. Peyton Pritchard shot 48% of the pick and roll. It's just like, you want to see Derrick White get better, but if I'm looking at shot creation and who is like actually better with the ball in their hands, creating for themselves, I feel like Pritchard is more comfortable there. And again, like, Derrick White's absolutely going to have to do more of that this year for sure. I mean, you lose a guy like Jason Tatum who doubled anybody else on his team in, pick and rolls and how often they ran the offense. You're naturally going to have the second and third and fourth guys like step up in that role. But I don't think you should, anything that would take away from how good Derrick White is as a 3-point shooter, as a bell cow defender, does everything, like expends so much energy on that end, I don't want to risk, because for as great as it would be for Derrick White to make those steps and make those improvements, and I think he will just naturally because he's going to have to do it more naturally, I don't think you should emphasize those and take away from all the great things he does, because like, this isn't the final product, right? Like, this is a gap year in the biggest sense. Tatum's coming back. He didn't retire, right? Like, he's going to eventually be back next year, and you're going to need Derrick White to play the exact role that he's played for the last 2 years. And I think emphasizing areas of growth, yes, obviously 1000%, but don't take away from all the great things he does well. And I just don't think he's naturally a shot creator. And I know, yeah.
I mean, I think we're on the same page with that, and maybe he doesn't have to be, but I just think there are going to organically be more situations where he's put in a position where it would be
For sure.
nice if he could do that. And that is like the key to unlocking the next level, which it's not mandatory. Like, you don't have to, but in terms of this season, being able to do that will be extremely helpful. And then I think that's like what the point with a lot of this.
And I think he can.
But, yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Sean O'Brien says, I'd like to see White turn into a high volume scorer behind Jaylen Brown. He's been a consistent scorer, averaged 16.4 points per game during his career. Season of 24-25, that's what was needed from him then, but it's not what's needed now. White had 17 games with 20 points or more, but just 4 25 plus points and 2 of 30 plus. Given Boston will be out 3 of the team's top 6 scorers, White will need to pack a bigger punch in that department. Yeah, I think it'll come naturally, like I said, but I mean, just look at the stats there. Like, in a 70 plus game season, he only had 4 25-point games. Like, that's just not, and I think he will naturally have more 25 plus and high scoring games. I think the scoring will naturally hike up to around 18 to 20 like just because he's going to have the ball more. But I don't think pushing Derrick White to be a 25-point per game scorer is the solution to the Celtics season.
No, and it just might be maintaining the consistency at a higher volume. Maybe that's the key here.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think he's naturally just going to score more, but I don't think they should push him to be something he's not. I agree with that notion. Josh Cannon says, be an all-star. Derrick White is the number 2 option for the Celtics this season. He's shown that when the Jays are out, he can pick up the slack. Now he has to do it every night. I want to see if White is able to maintain his defensive impact while absorbing a bigger offensive role. If he finds that balance, he will be an all-star this season. This is exactly the sentence I think is the most important. Maintain defensive impact, absorb a bigger role. And I think that could come with scoring 18 to 20 a game. I think taking a big jump in the assist category, maybe getting it up to 6 or 7. I think the efficiency's got to stay there. And if the defense stays too, and the Celtics are a solid team in the East, I think he could naturally just get some of those all-star votes. So I think that's the most important thing.
It's definitely possible. I think I wrote about it this summer. Did you write about this summer at some point? I feel like
I don't know.
All of us might have just stumbled upon writing the Derrick White All-Star piece. It definitely is possible. There's a lot of guards in the Eastern Conference, but I don't know. He's going to have the opportunity to prove himself. There's something here where if the Celtics overachieve, people will be really impressed, and guys are going to get credit for it. Like we talked about the Anthony Simons possibility of 6th man of the year, I think on the last podcast. And that was the same thing I said there. That, well, if Boston overachieves, people will be like, wow, these guys are all so awesome. And it's definitely possible for him to do that. It's just a question of whether or not the efficiency stays. If he's able to maintain the defensive impact as it's written here, you're going to have to use your legs offensively. And if you have to burn extra energy, it's not as easy to defend. Is unimportant as it may sound, or like an excuse as it may sound, it's definitely very real. You have to have the energy to defend.
Yeah, it's going to be a big test, and we'll see if he can handle it. Max Letterman says, I want to see White average 22-plus points per game. He has the ability, but can he consistently score for the season without any diminishing returns? And then Adam says, I'd like to see him avoid a joyless cold streak. It's sad knowing he's not having a blast out on the court. 2 very solid goals. Again, I don't know if pushing Derrick White to just score the ball a ton is the best. I think it's naturally going to go up, but we'll see. We'll just see how it plays out. I think he definitely can do it, but I'm curious to see how it balances out with Peyton Pritchard and Anthony Simons out there too.
I hope we can all avoid a joyless cold streak. Here's to that.
I agree. Let us know what you think about Derrick White. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Leave a like, subscribe, and all the same. Take it out.
Hey, thank you very much for listening and watching. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe. We are here every single day. So if you want more of us, full pods drop Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. We have game recaps coming back soon, less than a month from the first preseason game. They will be up on the channel, and other videos like this one are here in between to keep you up to date with all things Celtics, or at least curb your craving. Spotify and Apple, we have all of our pods and game recaps there too. So if you just want those followed, they'll go right to your feed. Leave a 5-star review there. It does help us in the algorithm. We'd appreciate it very, very much. Help other people find us. Tell your friends. You can email us, hbtcpod@gmail.com. We're recording, and technically we already recorded for tomorrow, but send them in for Monday. hbtcpod@gmail.com. Our socials are at How About Them C's for Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook's name of the podcast. All streams are there. They're on YouTube. They're on Twitter. Jack's Twitter's Jack's Mon NBA. Mine's at Sam LaFrance NBA. That's it for us.
Taco, come on.
Taco's having some fun here.